Hey guys, this is Mike McCormick with Advanced Criminology here in Owings Mills, Maryland. And today's discussion happens to be the recent, what's in the media about the Commissioner Sousa and his recent issues with tax evasion and the filing of federal charges of misdemeanor violations of the federal tax code by not paying his taxes several years ago. I believe it was 3 years in a row that he didn't pay his taxes. Today is the day before Mother's Day, so I want to wish all of you out there who happen to be moms a happy Mother's Day tomorrow. I certainly will be with my family and friends tomorrow as well. You know, Mother's Day is very expensive. It seems like every single year things get higher and higher in terms of buying cards. I mean, cards are like $10 and $15 a card now. I don't know what's going on. Everybody's making money. You know, and it's funny. I was just walking through Walgreens, and you see on the Mother's Day, you know, there's cards. They run out of cards. But you know, when I go to Walgreens for Father's Day, they still have cards, dozens of cards, even the day before Father's Day. So it doesn't seem like Father's Day is as popular as Mother's Day. But anyway, we love you all. So getting into the story here. Reference to Commissioner Sousa. Commissioner Sousa is an official in the city of Baltimore, just like the mayor and the city council folks. And unfortunately, all public officials come under a different set of scrutiny than you and I, particularly as it pertains to their personal life and their personal doings, financial disclosures, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to some of the spending habits that can go against the rules and regulations of their official capacity. So this is why in this particular city we see overspending in certain areas, whether it's education, where it's top heavy in terms of administrative costs, because what we're seeing is an abuse of power in terms of who's controlling the purse strings at each and every organization. So in this case here with the Commissioner Sousa, it was determined by the federal prosecutor's office that he did violate the federal tax code and was subject to penalty of being charged with a misdemeanor. Now, if you're charged with a misdemeanor in the police department, you certainly can be suspended with pay. And if you're found guilty of a felony, you would be suspended. It's not found guilty of a felony, but if you're charged with a felony, you can certainly be suspended without pay. And so he falls under those guidelines, established guidelines by the police department. There's been speculation also by the federal prosecutor's office that they're looking into some other criminal issues with Mr. Sousa. And so subsequently the mayor had her back against the wall yesterday, and she had to have him step down until the matters can be resolved. This is sad because in this city, you know, they're trying to pick themselves up from 2015, and the skyrocketing murder issues do not help. And particularly when you have someone in the command staff who certainly has an issue in his personal life with his financial doings. I'm here. I don't make any excuses for pretty much anybody when it comes to their personal life or professional life. We do what we have to do. You take these jobs on in terms of being a public official, and you're certainly going to come under much more scrutiny than the average citizen on the street, and that's just the way it is. So I don't really have compassion in terms of that, because you kind of know the jobs when you sign up for them, what they entail. So we're moving on. Now, there's been speculation in the mayor's office about the vetting process, which seems to not be a process at all. And I'll give you two examples. One, the most recent with Commissioner Sousa not filing his taxes, and the other issue is was Commissioner Batts, who also was not properly vetted. Now, a lot of people didn't even know he wasn't properly vetted, but several years ago, when he was being selected to become the Commissioner of Baltimore, there were many reports about outside agencies from California, particularly newspaper organizations, that had basically said that Commissioner Batts was an individual who should not have gotten this position here in Baltimore based upon some of his activities when he was a commissioner out in San Jose and also in Oakland Police Department. Now, some of those issues were cover-ups of certain improprieties by his officers out there, and the biggest issues had to be with several women who filed complaints of domestic violence against Commissioner Batts. This is well-documented stuff out there, and for some reason or other, when Mayor Stephanie Rawlins Blake was in charge, they never really looked into that. They never gave that a second thought. And so he was appointed commissioner here, and what struck me as surprising is that by all the controversy that was going on out in Oakland at the time, that he, under the allegations of domestic violence, was able to leave Oakland and come here, and he took a pay cut. He took a significant pay cut to come here. And so one has to ask the question, why does one who was working in California with a salary of $255,000 a year as a police commissioner come to Baltimore to make about $210,000, if that? And so the speculation was from the news reporter that I spoke with, not only did I speak with him on the phone, I spoke with him in emails back and forth, that the commissioner was running, actually trying to get away and start fresh by going from West Coast of California, coming to the East Coast, where he virtually was unknown. And so I just thought I'd bring that issue out. This information is very readily available. If you want to check it out, you want to go to the Beachcomber. Beachcomber is a news paper out there in California that covered the stories about domestic violence of Commissioner Batts. And they went in depth about some of his doings on those police departments. And so when we look at the vetting process that's been touted lately in the news, how these officers, these commissioners are not being vetted properly, this is the problems that we run into. And I've talked about this in different organizations, different videos, that there's no successful organization that I know of that has such high turnover of CEOs. There's no way in the world that this organization in this city can run successfully with the high turnover rate of commissioners. It just doesn't work. If we again look at the big corporations out there nowadays, the ones successful have been around for many years, they have very little change of leadership at the top. It's because the tone has to be set to make an impact on an organization over a period of time for it to be successful. And so I'll leave that, where it is. So the discussion today has to do with, how is it and why is it that there's no proper vetting for police commissioners in Baltimore City? And that vetting starts at the mayor's office. That's where it starts and stops. The mayor's office and city council. Usually and typically what happens in this city is that the mayor makes a selection of a particular person she wants to head the police department, and then that selection is run through the city council members, and they typically just vote. Whatever the mayor wants, she gets, or he gets. And so that is what has happened in the past several commissioners that have been selected. And particularly in the past couple of years, it's the way it's gone on. There was one person who did dissent in the Sousa being appointed. I didn't find the reason why. I think that this particular city councilman did not want de Sousa because de Sousa was part of the Good Old Boy Network. And I even agreed with him at some point that if you let's say for instance, he was running the patrol division, which he was prior to being appointed to commissioner. What is it that you could have done to support the former commissioner in his efforts to turn the police department around? Because prior to that, de Sousa's name was never really a name that you heard in terms of being effective with policing in Baltimore City. At least I didn't hear his name being touted as a person that had made significant changes while being deputy commissioner of the patrol division here in Baltimore. And so you would think that if new commissioner comes on board, that the deputy commissioners of the police department would step up and say, hey, look, we want you to be successful. This is what's going on right now. And this is the game plan that we've put together, and we want to know whether or not you share our same philosophy so we can make you successful. And that's what board meetings are for, typically, when you want to meet with your board and other different types of organizations, where you sit down and you have a game plan with that board of directors and you figure out how the organization can be successful, where it needs to be worked on in this area, what's working, and you move forward with the game plan. But in this case here, it seems like there's a lot of selfishness with the command staff in terms of support for a police commissioner. And so when you have high turnover rates of police commissioners, the general staff, line and staff officers who've been there for 10, 15, 20, 25 years typically continue to do what they've been doing because they kind of know that, okay, well, how long is this guy going to last? Well, how long is this guy going to last? And you see it a lot, particularly in government organizations where department heads are appointed to run certain departments, and the folks that work under them have been there for many, many years and are used to the status quo way of doing things, and they are not going to change what they are doing because in their mind they truly believe that that particular department head won't be there long, and so change is not necessarily needed in their minds. And it happens throughout every organization. I'm sure some of you have worked for the state, city, federal, local governments. You know that when department heads get appointed, you're going to continue to work and do the job that you've been doing. And if it doesn't affect you, you're not going to make any waves because in your mind, you feel like, okay, well, how long is this person going to be here? Even though they want to implement change, we don't think they're going to be here long enough to see those changes implemented. And so that's the mindset of employees until they can buy in to new concepts from leadership. So if you have change of leadership, employees never buy in. And so that's what's going on with the Baltimore City Police Department. There's no mystery here, but that's pretty much what's going on. So those are the things I wanted to talk about in terms of vetting. Now, again, the mayor has the police commissioner serves at her leisure. That if you're doing a good job, you stay. If you're not doing a good job, you have to leave. One of the main issues and problems that we see though is that during election years and things like that, the mayor's office comes under greater scrutiny than ever because it goes back to her leadership skills and whether or not she's fit to run the city. Because if she can't make great selections or good selections of police commissioners to run the city and crime is still high, more than likely she won't be reelected, particularly if there's another candidate that comes along that's able to impact the city more significantly than the prior mayor. And so those are the things I just wanted to run by you and to discuss with you. Let's go back to Batts for a second. Now, Commissioner Batts, again, who was appointed by Stephanie Rawlins-Blake, had many, many issues with domestic violence. And I can tell you right now, had an investigation been done on Batts properly, he wouldn't have even got this job. Because once it's uncovered that you were subject to domestic violence allegations, that you were involved in cover-ups with other police officers out there in San Jose, you should never got the nod to even run the police department. And then I would have easily asked, I've been on job interviews where the employer asked me, well, how much were you making at your other job? And I might say this figure here. And then the employer says, well, we don't pay that much where you were from, so do you still want the job? And quite naturally, in most cases, you say no, because I'm used to making a certain salary. And again, in this particular case here, Batts didn't say no. He actually came here from California. And again, speculation was because he was running from something, which we now know were those domestic violence charges that were haunting him out there in California. And so when you bring him on board here, and it's about the same time that he came on board that the city police department came under scrutiny with the rape kits that had been sitting on shelves in the property room in Baltimore for years. They had not been tested. And so there was never any great effort on that commissioner's watch to, in essence, have those rape kits tested so that, crimes that have been unsolved could be solved. So all of it ties in to why all of it ties into why things go wrong in this particular city with this particular police department. There's no accountability, and no one wants to keep people accountable. And you can't run any type of organization with no accountability. And so I wanted to keep it short, not necessarily short, but because I hadn't been on close to a month now and was asked to come back on, I'm here. But those are the things that are going on. What is sad in this particular case dealing with Commissioner de Sousa is that although he appeared to be an individual who was trying to make a difference in this particular city with some of his crime efforts here, crime fighting efforts, is that we'll probably never know how it will pan out because in this particular case here, he is also facing, I think I said it earlier, he's also facing additional investigation for criminal activities as a police officer on the Baltimore City Police Department. I don't know any more than that, than what's being said, but the same two prosecutors, federal prosecutors who indicted the Gun Trace Task Force are the same two prosecutors that have charged Commissioner de Sousa and also looking into some other criminal matters. Having said that, I'll end here. I look forward to your comments on this issue. It's really a huge issue in the city, and we'll go from there. Thanks a lot. I'm Mike McCormick with Advanced Criminology here in Owings Mills.